Hello and welcome to the Dragon Slayer of Brighton podcast. I am Vincent the Valiant, as you just heard in the wonderful theme tune. That was done by the band 1 in 5, and we'll be chatting to those in a couple of episodes' time. Today, what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to go through how a lot of you probably know who I am, and it will tell you a lot about me, and then I'll explain bits and pieces after that, which is the Gumtree ad where everybody found out about my services. So, in the most dramatic way I can, I'm going to read out the advert that I placed on Gumtree for the public in the general jobs section, which was called Dragon Slayer for Hire. It reads, "Do you have a problem with dragons? Waking up to charred cattle-strewn fields and scorch marks ruining your newly painted front porch? Look no further. I'm an experienced dragon slayer looking for work. No matter how big or small your infestation, I can help. I've been in training for 3 years after a dragon destroyed my ice cream van in spring 2011. The police said it was arson, but I know better. This was my sole source of income, and there is no sight more depressing than a puddle of Calippos and Magnums surrounded by teary-eyed children. From that day forward, I vowed to rid this place of its blight. Over the years, I have made my own armour from old car parts, and they're all painted with flame-retardant spray. The sword is an ornamental one that I've sharpened and cuts through things really well. I've honed my skills by tackling annoying yappy dogs and cats in the area, and I think my skill level is definitely high enough to take on even the most ferocious dragon. Note, this is not a joke. I do not play magic, and I don't believe Hogwarts is real. No time wasters, please. My rates are negotiable based on job. I'm deadly serious about my work, and I know it's my destiny to rid the world of these scaly vermin. Since dragons have highly sensitive hearing, I do ask that you contact me via the reply button on this ad, as I don't trust phones." Okay, so that's the Gumtree ad. That was put up, and it was put up on May 18th of this year. From the advert, people found out about me. It went slightly viral, it got retweeted a lot, and I got interviewed by the local newspaper, the Argus, and I got interviewed by BBC Radio Sussex on their show, and that was lovely. And also I was interviewed on another podcast called Unreliable Source. Find that and subscribe to it, it's a great podcast. Okay, so all of that stuff. So as it says in the ad, I became a dragon slayer because my ice cream van got burned down in 2011. Now, that fateful day was the 12th of July 2011. My ice cream van, who was called Betty, she unfortunately was destroyed by a dragon. Now, I'm sure you've come across dragons in your daily life. They're everywhere. All you have to do is go outside. You'll find one if you're in Brighton. And I'm from Wales, so dragons are everywhere in Wales. But they're very civilised in Wales. And so I didn't expect one to attack me quite soon after getting to Brighton. So that was a bit of a shock. And it certainly came as a shock to the children. Those little children that were expecting ice cream, scuttling up to the van, wanting, Magnums and feasts and, 99s, that kind of stuff. And, yeah, great big dragon appears out of the sky and blows the van to smithereens, and blows me about 20 metres away. It's quite strange when you kind of wake up and you see the kids looking at the ice cream, which is now melted, and you would have thought they'd be preoccupied by the dragon in the sky, really. But, whatever. So after that happened, it's quite a traumatic experience. I had to take a couple of days to get over the loss of Betty. And I decided that, obviously, this is a problem. This was my sole source of income. So what do those people... There's nowhere for them to turn. There's a gap in the market. No one's slaying dragons in this area. No one's taking care of them. So who does that fall on? And it kind of falls on me. So back in 2011, when that happened, I started training. And I started by doing moped jousting. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to hold a a lance while you're on a moped. It's surprisingly tricky, especially when you don't actually ride a moped. So I had to learn to balance with a lance in my hand, which was incredibly tricky. I fell off many times, many grazed knees, but, that's besides the point. Over time, I got particularly good at that. Another training I was doing at the time, I found a friend of mine that does, he does reenactments, which is, I suppose they do medieval fighting in armour and all the rest of it. And I got him to forge me some armour. By the way, his name is Trevor. He's my blacksmith. Very, very capable man. He managed to whittle together a suit of armour made from a Ford Fiesta, which is impressive enough. And it's actually kept me alive for this long, so that's actually really good. And yeah, as I say, my sword, which you would have heard in the theme tune, is called Pointy. She is an ornamental one that I just sharpened, but she's saved my life more times than not, so that's good. Well, she would have saved my life more times than not, otherwise I'd be dead right now. That was just a stupid thing to say, Vince Swanson. Anyway, right, so, yes. So that's how I came upon my armour and that sort of stuff, and Trevor trained me in some of the fighting and things like that. Other stuff I had to learn along the way. So there are things that you don't learn unless you're tackling dragons. Some things like that they are allergic to candy floss, or that they're particularly fond of magic eye pictures, particularly if they have a sailboat in them. No idea why. And taking on dragons is very tricky. No two dragons ever go out the same way. Some explode, some implode, some go loudly, some go quietly, but all of them will try to take you with them, so you have to be very, very careful. And I learned in a conversation with a dragon named Rufus that citrus counteracts the chemical reaction causing the fire breath. So that came in immensely useful. So as I say, some dragons are very, very good. They're civilized and they're nice. The way I see dragons, as I've said it before, but I see them as kind of, we have the nice people of society and then we have the serial killers and the rest of it. Same with the dragoning world. We have the nice civilized ones that you can have a chat with, sit down, have afternoon tea, and then you have the ones that want to rip your face off. And yes, that's pretty much the way it works. And as I say, you learn lots of stuff on the job. Like, I've worked a lot with the dragon rescue and guarding of noxious species centres in the area. Those are the people that rehabilitate dragons and train them to be trained, I guess. So they're the ones who take the dragons in and they train them and make them not a menace to people anymore. And they have taught me a lot about taking on dragons, lots of bits and pieces about trapping them and kind of things like that if one is a problem. So that's really useful, and you find out things like dragons are particularly afraid of bananas. There's some debate in the scientific world that the thing about the bananas is actually the potassium in them, but no one's really proven this. There's been a couple of studies, but it's never really gone anywhere. And they're also afraid of traffic cones for some inexplicable reason. They do like crosswords, though, and yellow hats. So, yes, if you've got one of those, they will probably follow you around. So just be aware of that. This is generally because they like solving crosswords. They consider themselves very intelligent, and they get rather smug when they get 14 down. So, what should you do if you're facing a dragon? So, here's a segment telling you just that thing. What to do when faced with a dragon? Number 1. Are you sure it's a dragon and not just an enhanced squirrel? Firstly, look for the telltale signs. Their scales, pointy teeth, wings, fire breath is pretty obvious, and tail. Long, swooshing tail with possibly pointy bits that could stab you and kill you. But that's the kind of thing we're looking for here. There are dragons that can mimic into people, but they mimic people rather well, and your best friend could have been a dragon your entire life and you wouldn't have known. But if that's the case, then they're clearly not a menace and you don't have to worry about it. So, if you see a dragon, look for those few things. Those are usually telltale signs that tell me it's not a cat. Because more often than not, it's a cat. And I have to deal with the fact I've been hired to take a cat out of the way. And that's pretty annoying. Especially when you've got dressed up and everything. Number 2. Don't panic. Okay, so you've seen a dragon. It's probably a lot larger than you are. It's very scary. It's got pointed teeth. It's got wings. It's got a tail. And your immediate instinct would be, run! And that's not a bad instinct. That's a very good one. But just, first of all, find your towel. Number 3. Try to strike up a conversation with it. To try and figure out whether it's dangerous or not. If not, you can play Twister. Lovely. That will pass the hours away, and you'll make a new friend, which is nice. And if they are a danger, they'll probably answer you back with some kind of swear word, or may blow fire at you, so be ready to dodge. Yes. Number 4. Distract the menace. Now, as I've said before, you can do this with things like magic eye pictures. And also, a lot of dragons like very distinct movements and motions. So, particularly dancing. They like dances with very choreographed movement. So things like the Macarena and the Time Warp, they work particularly well. So you can distract them with one of those, bright colours, that kind of thing. They're almost like children in a weird way. So magic eye pictures, that kind of stuff, that works really, really well. For God's sake, never throw jelly babies at it. Jelly babies are an aphrodisiac to dragons. This will not end well for you. Number 5. Call me. Or at least contact me. As I've said before, I don't like phones because the dragons can hear it. Not very aware I'm putting out a podcast right now, so they'll probably get a hold of it and they'll find it, but they should know I'm out there by now. But contact me via my details. You can find me at my website, which is therebedragonshere.squarespace.com. On there is a contact page. It's called Hire Me, and it has details about how you can contact me, a contact box that you can contact me directly through the website. You can also find on there posters to print and put up around the city. I am trying to make Brighton a dragon-aware city. Please help. Print off the posters, put them around, and help me spread the word. Also, you can email me directly. You can email me at dragonbegone@gmail.com. That's B-E, not just B. So dragonbegone@gmail.com, all one word. And you can find me on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and the various social media platforms. I'm out there, I'm around. You just have to search for Dragon Slayer Brighton and you'll find me. On Twitter, my handle is DragonSlayerBTN. So all you need to do, contact me through one of those and I will come and help. You've distracted the dragon, that's the hard bit. The one thing I do ask though, please give me details of what I'm going to have to deal with when I get there. Tell me details of what the dragon looks like, what kind of emotional state they're in, if they're happy, sad. It's a particularly difficult thing when I turn up with all of my armour to try and take on a dragon that I thought was a menace, but it turns out is just unhappy and is trying to get over a breakup. Now I've got to console a dragon, and I've got Pointy with me, and I don't have a tub of ice cream, or chocolates, or flowers, or, I don't know, something to help the dragon calm down a little bit. Even a toy to play with. I don't have that, but I could have that if you let me know that that's what I'm going to have to be dealing with when I get there. That would be very, very helpful. So yes, those are the 5 things that you should absolutely do when faced with a dragon. And a lot of you have contacted me throughout the process of doing all of this and asked for my help. So, here is a segment which will be ongoing, and it's called You've Got Mail.
You've got some mail.
Paul, do you team up to tackle aliens? There's been a lot of abductions in my area, and I'll barely escape with my life. Your armour may be a great defence from their lasers. Paul, come on. Aliens clearly aren't real. Please, seek medical help.
Isaac, I've got a dragon problem, and I need your help.
I'm sorry, there's no one around to deal with your request at the moment, as they're all in great peril and may get burned to a charred mess on the floor. In the event this doesn't happen, they will be in touch as soon as possible. Thank you.
Dr. Phil. They call me Dr. Phil. Mate, there is a dragon which keeps coming in my garden. I try to fend it off with flares, but it's no use. My life hasn't been the same since this dragon started making my life a living hell. I'm starting to come up with a formula for dragon poison. However, I do need some dragon blood to test it on. And that's where you come in, son. I need you to slay this dragon, then I can produce this dragon poison, and together we can rid the world of this vermin. Dr. Phil, this is an incredibly promising prospect. Just how much blood would you actually need? And also, my next question is, would it work on all species of dragon, or just the one? Because there's a lot out there.
Lord Thomas of Sussex, a legendary dragon named Trogador, burnt down my village many moons ago. Will you aid me in my quest to vanquish this foul beast from the Sussex Downs, where he preys upon the flesh of old sheep and weary travellers? Come forth, champion of the South, and rise up. Your time is now.
Lord Thomas, that's an incredibly kind offer. I've heard tales of this Trogador and his disproportionate limbs. I will of course accept the challenge, and I have some time free in early June to take care of the menace. What I will ask is that your intended payment method. What is it? I accept cash, PayPal, Bitcoin, and in certain circumstances I accept mead and wenches. The price is of course negotiable on the day, but a rough estimate is around £4,532. Vincent.
Lord Thomas. Good day to you, Sir Vincent the Valiant. That seems an incredibly good value for money. You shall receive payment once the deed is done and he lay dormant and the head of the beast has been brought to my castle. You will receive the greatest of welcomes, and have access to all the mead and wenches we have to offer, including the high-class wenches reserved only for royalty. This is a dangerous task, and Trogador should not be taken lightly. His fire is hotter than hell, and his claws are as big as a medium-sized tuna. I can offer you the help of our finest knight to help you in your quest.
Thank you, Lord Thomas. I will not need the aid of your knight at this time, and he'll only get in my way. I will contact you when the job is done, though, and Trogdor lives no more. Vincent.
Zolvar, you're an idiot. Dragon-slaying scum like you maketh me sick. Hast thou ever taken a minute to think about those of us who rely on dragons? And the dragon-centric economy that generate coin and fortune? Put down the mead for the first time in your syphilis-ridden life, and look at the wider tapestry. How dost thou suggest that I find freshly stripped virgin bones without an active dragon lair to harvest them from? Following me? How dost thou suggest that I maketh any potions worth a fig without freshly stripped virgin bones? And how dost thou suggest that I keep a thatch over my head and roast hog in my weans' mouths without regeneration potions to sell? You are slaying the food right out of my weird's mouths. My wife has bubonic plague, so I am currently the sole breadwinner in our hovel. You say your rates are negotiable. Here's a negotiation for you. Stop at slaying dragons, or you'll soon be on the sharp end of my wizarding sceptre. By which I mean, I shall rammeth it up thine gaping, pus-leaking hindquarters. For reference, my sceptre is made of a very, very rough oak, and has a ruby the size of a melon on the end of it. Should you wish to discuss this further, by any means, come and pay me a visit any time you like. Mine is the hut behind the blacksmith's, but before you get to McGinty's brothel, you can't miss it. It's walled with human scrotal skin. I'll be waiting for you, you barbarous elkhead. Yours, Zoltar.
Zoltar, I believe you should seek medical help. Although being as the only building behind the blacksmiths is actually a mental institution, I actually suspect that you're getting it and it's not working. So, given your poor grasp of the English language, I suspect that you may have suffered a stroke at some point, and you might want to get that looked at. I mean, magic potions are of course the cocktail of medication that the doctors have put you on, and since you say that you make these things for your children, I believe that you've been feeding them to the other inmates. I do wish you a speedy recovery though, and I hope to have tea with you once you are well. Vincent.
You've got some mail.
Right, so I've been sent a link to a news article. It was sent to me on Saturday night, and it's an article in The Guardian that was put up on Saturday evening, 16th of August, and it says freedom of information, what the council is doing about dragons. So they said it to me, obviously, because they felt I should know what was going on. And the article speaks about, apparently after Game of Thrones, and it's become really popular, and it's caused a bit of a resurgence in mythical creatures, so-called mythical creatures, and people have been calling their children after Game of Thrones characters, and it's very, very popular. So some staff at Wigan Council, they've been asked to set out a preparation plan in the event of an attack by mythical creatures, or so-called mythical creatures. As we know, dragons are very real. And it's topped a list of some really bizarre requests made to the councils in England and Wales under the Freedom of Information Act. Now, the list was drawn up by the LGA, which is the Local Government Association, and it also includes a request by Worthing Council to explain what precautions, preparations, planning and costs have been undertaken in the event that an asteroid crashes into Worthing. Meanwhile, the Southampton Council was asked how many children in care had been microchipped. So, really bizarre things that the council has been asked, but I am glad that the people of Britain are asking these questions, particularly about dragons. We know they're out there. I deal with them on a daily basis, and I'm trying to make this city a dragon-aware city. So it's very, very good that these people, the general public, are going to the councils and actually making this an issue as well. Because we do need to sort this out. There's a lot of them out there that do want to cause us harm, and we need to put in preparations in order to deal with that. The East Sussex Fire and Rescue Service, they need to help us. So we're at the top of that plan. Wigan Council was asked what plans are in place to protect the town from a dragon attack. Now, that's really good. I'm really glad that we're getting the word out there. There are some rather strange ones on here, though. There's number 6 was asked to Rosendale Council, how many holes in privacy walls between cubicles have been found in the public toilets and within the council buildings in the last 10 years? That's weird in itself. Yes, very, very weird. And there's another one to Birmingham Council, which was how many requests were made to council-run historic public access buildings, e.g. museums, requesting to bring in a team of ghost investigators into the building. Which, yeah, some strange ones in there, but dragons, not so strange. They're very real, I deal with them, we need to tell the people about it. So, what I suggest you do, go to the website, therebedragonshere.squarespace.com. Once you're there, go to the Hire Me page. On the Hire Me page, towards the bottom of the page, there is a little button which says spread the word. I believe it does anyway. Let me just check. Yes, click the spread the word button. That sends you to a page with the poster. Download the poster, print it, put it up everywhere, put it up outside your house, get people alerted to it. Tell people about the podcast, tell people about me, my services. Get the word out. Let's make Brighton a dragon-aware city, and more and more things I have planned for the taking care of the dragons in this city. A few of them are dealing with the people who have to go through these ordeals against dragons and getting them coaching and things like that. I have a few plans of what I'm going to do, and I'll always keep you posted on the podcast and let you know what's going on. I will be interviewed for a local TV channel soon, Channel 8, which is local Brighton channel. I will be interviewed by Latest TV for a show called Brighton Lights. That's coming up soon. As soon as that happens, I will let you know. I'll let you know where you can find it. But until then, go to therebedragonshere.squarespace.com. Find me, research me, get in touch with me, more importantly. Let me know what you think of my goings-on in the city and the podcast. You can find me as well on Twitter. It's at DragonSlayerBTN, and have a chat with me on there, or find me on Facebook and YouTube, and wherever else I decide to put myself, really, but mostly the website. So go there, enjoy this podcast. So that's the end of this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know. If you didn't, if you did, either way, just let me know. Have a chat. Invite me out for tea. I don't really mind. But do something. And be careful out there, because we all know there be dragons here. On next week's show, I'm going to be discussing a dragon that contacted me after the Gumtree ad had gone up and things started getting a little bit strange. A dragon named Runel the Destroyer decided to get into contact with me and challenge me. Which is never a good idea. But he did that, and we'll be talking through the messages that he sent me next week. So, I will catch you again next Monday.